Okay, let's do some more on the horses. So I'm looking here, and of course we need to strengthen a lot of these darks. And this area right here is way darker on the mother. It's more of a blackish tone, which kind of helps separate her from her baby. Uh, I'm also looking at this little area right in here that kind of frames the eye a little bit, and this bit of lid. And I want to go ahead and detail those. So let's tackle those two areas first. Uh, the mane kind of stops here, but there is this grayish black tone associated with that. So I'm just going to kind of blend that on down here, because when you look at this, there's not much separation there. And I'm not sure what's what. And if you can't tell what's what, don't try to make it. Just imply what you see and nothing more. Okay, so we've still got our gray mixture here. And so let's wet. All this area is going to have to get more of the gray slash black, whatever you want to call it, in here. Oh, let's see, but not the ear. Oh, darn, I wet it, and I don't want to wet the ear. Okay, in that case, we're going to come down here and work while that dries a little bit, because I want to keep that ear a little bit separate in color. They do merge here a lot, but you do have a strong dark edge on the ear. But I thought I'd make this ear just a little bit browner to help separate them. So instead, let's go work on this area around the eye. And I've got the little pointy brush. So this is already pretty dark there. Let's make it darker. Let's come this way. Oh yeah, and that tear duct is, what is that tear duct? Oh, well, it's not that dark. Let's see. There's a tear duct area there. This should get a lot darker. Kind of comes up like that. You know, kind of do what you see. I think I've got the horse's eye a little bit too open. So that's probably my drawing that's off. Let's leave that dark for now. Remember that when you put a wash over this, it still softens it. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of scumble in. I say scumble, but this is very, very wet. It's not really, scumble is not really a watercolor term. Maybe that. And we will soften this edge. And the brush is pretty dry here. Trying to just barely soften it. Let's see, actually I could come up under here just a little bit. That's where I already got it wet, softening it. I think I got a little wetter than I wanted. Okay, and then this area, which we already have some brown under, but now we need some gray. At some point, we're going to put some more brown in the eye too, obviously. There's a place here on the mouth where we're messing with this tiny stuff. There's a place right here on the mouth, right there. And that really shows that the lower lip has some depth to it. So let's get that in. Right, oops. Right. Y'all see that right here. Okay, good. Right there. I think I could use a little more color right down here. I'm putting a little bit of dark in the middle of the dark. Soften that. Yeah, good. Okay, well, let's look at the baby's nose while we're at this, while we're doing this stuff. So I'm putting a little bit more dark on here on the baby too. And again, I'm putting a little bit of dark in the dark. That is, I'm not making it quite dark all the way to the edges of the previous dark. I'm making so that I'm really building a graduated dark there. This area right in under here is quite a bit darker. Let's just, you know what, I'll just take this brush because that's handy. And remember, I've got wet, flowy paint. Let's get the lower jaw too. And across that way. Well, that will never do like that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften it. Because remember, I've still got juicy paint. It's pretty strong, but it's still got the kind of quality where it will flow off the end of the brush. Well, what can we do with this little boy's eye? I think I'll make the eyeball darker here for right now.
Hey, how's it going?
There we go. So a little bit like that. Okay, there. I think I'll dry that. Well, no, you know what? This has been setting a little while. It's still dampish. It might flow in with the rest of it, but let's just take some of our brown here, our reddish brown, because that eye really looks like a dark version of the rest of her. Let's put that in. Well, that looks kind of extreme, doesn't it? But we'll work with that later. We can't do a whole lot with this horse's eyes in that we don't see a lot in them in this photo. Okay. So, oh, and I wanted to put that dark tip back on this ear where I had attempted to. I could lengthen the tip a little bit. Okay. This is looking more like a horse all the time, isn't it? Okay, we still got a little bit more to do here before we take the masking off. Okay, that's been dried. As someone used the term intentional with every stroke. And that's just it. Don't just put something down because you want to make motion with the brush. Put something down because it needs to be there. So I'm pre-wetting. Okay. Well, got it over the ear again. It is what it is. Okay, so I'm looking at it and tilting it this way and that to make sure that I've got enough water on it but not too much. Okay. So I want these areas that I'm fixing to paint, I want the paint to flow less. They're going to be smaller shapes. And so I'm going to pull up a lot of the excess water. I just keep going right over that ear. I hope you all don't have that problem. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing more shadow through here and through here that would happen with the grays. A little more shadow there. So this shape and this shape are all brown in here, and we need a little bit of gray layered into them. So, and you can see this is pretty strong stuff. I've kind of thinned it down to a gray there. And the brush isn't really loaded up. It's most of the paint is on the tip so that I don't get too much. I just want to tint these areas. And then here, I need a lot of color, so I'll get stronger color here. Well, the little guy is just going to have a dark ear after all. I just can't seem to control myself. Oh, that put a lot of shape in her. Of course, it's not going to be that dark when it dries. This area, all of this, I'm actually going to make a larger shape with the gray than I did with the brown here. You know, it could have been the other way around. It wouldn't make that much difference. Okay. I think this just looks a little weak. Let's pull a little bit of shape down through here. And so that's too strong. I'm going to come back and I'm going to manipulate that some. Okay, so moisten my brush out. Water neutral brush, and I'm going to pull up some shape. I don't need much shape right here because this part of the jaw is really pretty flat. Let's take some of that off. I got too much paint down there. So I'll wet it and I'll pull some of that up, but not pull this up over here. I need to soften this edge a little bit. You know, we could use just a little bit of shape right up under here. It doesn't need much. Okay, oh yeah, that's much better. Okay, and then let's look at the other shapes that I put in. Water neutral brush. I don't want this to be quite that strong there, and I really want just a weak hint of something down here. And I've got a little too much color down there. So let's dampen it first, because remember, this isn't real wet. And then we'll pull up some of the extra. Okay, I think that this area needs a little more gray on it. Just almost right on top of where the brown was. And we're going to put those veins in a few minutes, and I want to talk about that separately, because I think I want to use a slightly different technique with you there. I think I need a little more brown. Remember, when you do this, it's a matter of having the right amount of water on there. You can do this. If you don't have the right amount of water, then it can really backfire. And I would recommend, if you're new at this or you feel unsure about it, just go to the dryer more often. Dry what you've got and then re-wet it. Oh, I haven't done anything with this. Was it really getting a little bit too dry over here? I'm going to put a little bit more brown into some of this. Make it just a little richer, stronger. Okay, and water neutral brush. Anytime you see me do that, I'm pretty much doing water neutral brush. I don't need to say it every time, do I? We need a little something right there, I think. A little darker. That shadow, I really messed that shadow up. They shouldn't have that squiggly shape like that. That's just totally, totally wrong. So, okay, let's look at the little boy over here. I'm calling him a boy because she's a girl. I'm just trying to separate them that way. We need to pre-wet him now. This is his shadow side, and then the top of his head and his ears are darker like hers. Let's get that a little richer brown maybe, but mostly we need our dark. Okay, well, I didn't get it wet up there, so I've got a hard edge, so I just need to soften it a little bit. There we go. And then right down here along the side of the face, he's definitely grayer. If I do that, I've got to get this all darker too. We're going to have to add a few more darks in on him probably after he's dry. We're mostly concerned with showing shape though. Now your strokes shouldn't be showing here because this should be wet enough that you don't have individual strokes showing, because you don't want individual strokes in your shadow. Well, that's kind of nice. He's got a little bit of shaping in there and here, but I can't show it right now because it's wet. So I want to get her dry, and I want to put more dark right in here and up into the mane. And we need to work on a background. I may just show just almost a plain background and kind of leave it for y'all. You could do something like this, but you could also make up your own fantasy background of where these horses are. I would keep it simple. I wouldn't try to put the Taj Mahal in back of them, but other than that, I think, you know, wherever you want them to be. Okay. What do you think? Do you think this part's a little bit too light? I do, too. Okay, I'm just going to add a little water in the whole area, and I'm going to pull up the teeniest bit of our brown, because I want that to be fairly light, but it's just a tiny bit too light, I think. You know, we could use a little bit more dark right in this spot. Well, not that much dark, but now we're going to modify it. See, it's not something to panic over if you get too much color down. Some of you are afraid to put enough color down. You can, if you're working wet in wet like this, you could put too much color down, and then you can manipulate it like I'm showing you here. And that's not a bunch of brushing and rubbing around. That's just barely touching so that I'm pulling color up onto the brush. There's a big difference there between that and just working it to death. So this needs to get darker, and I've decided at this point to work on dry paper. And even this is darker here. So let's soften the edges on that real quickly. Don't do a whole bunch and then go back and soften. It may be too late if you do that. It's just, I think I want a little stronger color here. My intention had been to do a fair amount of lifting on this. And I'm going to demonstrate some lifting, but the fact is I think it's going pretty well without the lifting. But I'll do some on it anyway, because I imagine some of you will need to lift. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I'm getting in a hurry. I'm getting a little bit sloppy. So I need to be a little bit more careful. There's a shape right in here. It's a little bit lighter right there. I didn't get that as dark as I thought I had. So again, I'm just softening some edges. Okay. You know, I think if we just do a few more darks on him, we'll be about ready. You know, he's got a little blackish spot right there. Oh, wow, he needs a little more color there. So, oh, gee. I didn't get him quite dark enough through here. I told somebody today she needed to lighten this little guy up on hers a little bit. And I'm thinking now maybe I shouldn't have said that. Okay, we've got that. Oh, we need a lot more darks around this eye area. Now remember, I'm putting this on. It's pretty strong, but nevertheless, it's wet enough to flow off the brush. So I'm able to manipulate it. As you work like this too, I think your paper, it loses more and more of its sizing and becomes a little different in the way that it works. And it's in some ways a little bit easier to handle. You know, we need a highlight up there is what we need. I think I want to leave that part alone, and I think I will. Let's say that that's, oh no, I got to do something to the ear. I need to slow down. I'm rushing, and I shouldn't do that. I'm trying to get a bunch of this on the video without using up too much time, because that's been a real problem with loading these videos. Okay, so there's probably going to be one video after this. Okay, so we're going to soften those edges. Okay, stopping there for a minute. Okay, let's mix up some kind of green. And I'm just gonna do just sort of a flat plain background to get this out of the way so we can take the halter thing off. So I really don't care. I'm gonna stick with my same triad. I'm basically working with 3 colors. So, Prussian and Quin Gold. We'll make us some kind of green here. That's a nice green. And then, let's get this out of the way, and we'll make a light green. And for that, I've been on a kick here lately where I've been using cobalt teal. If you have cobalt turquoise, God, it's a long ways from me in cobalt teal. Cobalt teal is a very bright, opaque color. And it's great for fine glazing on top of some things. It's also makes a nice mixing color with cad yellow. And this is an opaque treatment, but it's but the brightness helps make up for the opacity. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a background. And the main reason I'm doing it now is because of this halter down here. I'm doing it on dry paper. You could do it on dry, on wet. You can work wet into wet or make this do whatever you want it to. I'm just going to paint around, and I think I'll drop in a little bit of my olive that I mixed. Quin Gold makes a really luminous, strong olive. I think I want a little more dark right there. Good with that. And then let's go on around here. Dropping a little something else. So if I'm dropping in color, I don't want to just drop it in the middle of everything. I want it sometimes to come up to the object so that it looks like it goes in behind it. You don't want to make some little ring around the thing. Oh, we got to save a little bit for later because we got to paint some green in here. So I'm not going to throw this green away. And then here where we got the mane, I'm going to pull this into the mane. Ooh, that's got a little more blue in it. I think I'd like that to be a little bit lighter. Let's put a little more water in here. There. Nothing wrong with blotting. Depends on when you blot. I got a little bit more gray spread out in there than I'd intended to, but we'll deal with that in a few minutes. Okay. Maybe kind of lose that edge up there. Maybe we could lighten an area right down here, just a little area. Yeah. So if I wanted to, I could come in with stronger paint. Let's throw a little bit of that and put it in with our olive. So that's the cobalt teal. I like that light up there though, like this. So I'll put this darker mixture down here. I don't know what kind of shape this is I'm making. It looks like it's something. We don't know what. Maybe you know what. I don't. Yeah, maybe just a little. Okay. So we are right here. When you finish this, you can go ahead and lift your masking. Remember to make sure that your paper is perfectly dry before you lift.